Hey everybody, how's it going? Stabman coming right back at you today, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a pretty cool haul that I recently made on Mercari. Mercari is definitely one of my favorite sources to find Blu-rays, but it's very hit or miss. It's like I have gone already, like 5, 6 months in a row without ever finding anything on Mercari, and then randomly every now and then I'll find something that's just an unbelievable deal and I have to get it. Sometimes I'll have periods where I just find a whole bunch of really good stuff on there for a really good deal. This time around, somebody was selling off, I gather, their collection. From what I could tell, they had to sell it because they didn't have room for it where they were moving or something along those lines. But whatever the case may be, they were offering some really, really good deals on their Blu-rays and on some movies that I wanted for my collection. So I decided to go ahead and pick these up. The total price I paid for all of them was $65. So not too bad considering I actually got 10 titles. 10 titles for $65, which means I paid about $6.50 per title, which is a pretty good figure when you consider some of the things that I'll be showing you towards the end of the video. But let's start off with the cheaper items. First off, I decided to get Suburbicon. I know a lot of people did not like this movie. I know it got really bad ratings. I feel like that was that's completely unfair because, well, I saw the movie and I loved it, for one. For another, this is a Coen Brothers film. For crying out loud, why do people hate Coen Brothers now? Remember when everyone loved Coen Brothers and then for some reason they decided they didn't like the Coen Brothers and I don't understand what's happening anymore because I'm old? That's what I'm not remembering about this whole thing. What's going on? Somebody tell me. But regardless, I watched this movie because it was a Coen Brothers film and I wanted to see it. Now, to be specific, it was written by the Coen Brothers and then directed by George Clooney. Now, when I first heard that, I was like, I don't know, because I know that the Coen brothers are excellent filmmakers. They do amazing stuff. But George Clooney directing, I was like, I don't know. Let me see if I can remember anything he did. And it only took me a few moments, actually, to remember that he did Good Night and Good Luck, which is, I think, undoubtedly one of the best movies I've ever seen for certain. It's a really, undeniably good film. I don't know how anybody could deny that it's a fantastic film. Even when it came out, people were singing the praises of that movie. So, he's a good filmmaker, and I figured, well, you got a pretty good filmmaker behind this one, and you got some of the best writers in the business behind it as well. You shouldn't be able to go wrong. And I saw the trailer. The trailer looked kind of interesting. And finally watched the movie, and while I will say that there are aspects of this movie that feel a little bit phoned in, that feel like they weren't as deep as they possibly could have been. It was a really good movie with an interesting concept that I really loved. And I would say this is like a 7, maybe 7.5 out of 10 movie. It's a pretty damn good movie, and I definitely want it in my collection. No idea why people are giving it such a terrible rating, why people are saying it's a terrible movie. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand how anybody could think this is a terrible movie, but regardless, Suburbicon, picked it up. Love this movie. Very good stuff. Next up, I decided to get Selma, which I have not yet seen, but it's a movie about one of my heroes, Martin Luther King Jr., is just perhaps one of the most important figures in American history. I've actually, every now and then, said he's like a modern prophet, because he really is. He said a lot of, really wise things that, even to this day, people use as an example of, I don't know, an altruism, something that's absolutely true about our society and things that need to change in our society. So, being somebody who agrees with him on a lot of those things, or agrees with a lot of the points that he made, I should say, I definitely wanted to check this one out because, well, I like Martin Luther King Jr., and I would like to see a movie about Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, I also know he was not necessarily at all times the best person, so I'm wondering if this film goes into detail about any of that. I don't know. So, yeah. We shall see. Next up, I decided to pick up Wonder. This one I also wanted to check out, but never got around to checking it out. It's a story about a little boy who's different from other little boys and just trying to get by in life and live a normal life, and has a bit of trouble doing that, but eventually finds his place in the world. You know, that kind of story. It's not a story that hasn't been told before. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I'm thinking of Jack. Jack is a movie that people hate. Granted, I don't think it's a terrible movie, but it's an example of that kind of story, and it's not even the only example. I remember a movie that came out a few years ago called Martian Child. That one was very much like this. I mean, they always come out with these heartwarming movies with pretty much the same premise over and over and over again. Now, I think this, yep, it's based on a novel, probably a YA novel, but regardless, it's still basically the same kind of premise that we've seen in a million movies before. But I like that kind of story anyways, so I was like, you know what, I still want to see this movie, and to get it for a pretty damn good price, well, I couldn't complain about that. I was like, alright, well, this will give me a chance to check it out for a pretty low price, and decided to pick it up. Next up, I got Action Point, mainly because it is a Johnny Knoxville movie. I mean, I do like some dumb, stupid fun from time to time, and this one struck me as a interesting comedy, not something necessarily that's going to be a fantastic film, but something that could be a lot of fun. And I heard a lot of people trash talking it, saying it's a terrible movie, and it didn't get really good ratings, didn't get really good reviews, and it didn't really make a lot of money in theaters. And there weren't a lot of advertisements for it either. It's like they kind of tried to bury it. I don't know if a lot of people even knew about this when it came out last year. But regardless, I wanted to check it out just because I love the kind of humor that Johnny Knoxville is kind of known for. And it appears, at least to me, that there's at least some of that kind of humor in this movie. And I wanted to check it out and see what it was like. So, yeah. Next up, I finally picked up Ants. This was one of the big reasons. I know I've been showing you a lot of stuff that sells for between $5 and $7 anyways when you can find it used. But this is one of the titles from the recent line of DreamWorks Blu-rays that has not dropped in price at all since it came out, to my knowledge, anywhere. So it's been sitting at like $15 on Amazon since it came out. Maybe it dropped like $14.50 or something like that a few times. But basically around between $14 and $15 for this one. So to be able to get it for $6.50, or the equivalent of that, is not bad at all. That is not too shabby. And it's a movie that I don't like. I like this movie, but I don't like it enough that I want to pay $15 freaking dollars for it. I'm really glad they finally brought it to Blu-ray, and I think that in a lot of ways this is actually better than A Bug's Life, but it's not one that I wanted to pay a whole lot of money for, and I'm just really glad that I was able to get this for such a good price. Didn't have to pay very much at all, and basically got the price I wanted on it. And now that I have this, that means there's only one more DreamWorks title from the recent release of all the DreamWorks Blu-rays that have come out. There's only one more that I want to pick up, and that would be Prince of Egypt, and I will probably be picking that one up pretty shortly. So, yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite pickups from this haul. Glad to finally have this in my collection, especially for such a good price. Next up, I decided to get Funny Farm and Spies Like Us, the double feature, because to my knowledge, this is the only way to get Funny Farm on Blu-ray, at least in the United States. And I think Spies Like Us might be available separately, but Funny Farm I don't believe is on any other set at all. And Funny Farm is, in my opinion, one of the best Chevy Chase movies ever, definitely, and one of the best comedies of the 80s. And I also consider it just in general one of the best Christmas movies ever, because there's at least one scene in the film that takes place at Christmas time, and it's just hilarious with all the context behind it. So, yeah, I definitely love Funny Farm, and I'm glad to have it now in high definition, or at least all the best quality high definition it is currently available in. And to my knowledge, at least in the past, this has been sold out and like out of print. I don't think this is still in print anymore. I think it's out of print. And if it isn't out of print, then all I can say for sure is I haven't seen it anywhere near me for sale at all ever. So, like, if it's in stores somewhere, I don't know what store that is. It certainly isn't in the Northwest where I live, because it ain't been around here. I mean, and I've seen this going on Amazon at times for like $50 to $75 because it's so hard to find. So the mere fact that I was able to get this double pack here for $6.50 is a fantastic deal, and one of the big reasons that I decided to get this big old haul. Next up, I got Conspiracy Theory, which is another big reason I decided to get it, because this one is now out of print. At least as far as I can tell, it is out of print. They are not making any more copies, I don't believe. If you go on Amazon right now, you'll see it's selling for collector's prices. I don't know how high it's gotten, but I know it was like between $20 and $40 the last time I looked, which is pretty freaking high for a movie like this, especially a release like this, which tells you it's probably out of print now. There are a lot of aspects of this movie that aren't very good, but then there are aspects that are kind of good that I like. And it's one of those movies that I think is very memorable because there are a lot of scenes from it that I remember quite fondly and quite frequently. It's definitely one of those spy thriller kind of movies from the 90s that definitely had that unique feel from the 90s. You know what I'm talking about. There are movies like that, like The Fugitive, U.S. Marshals, which was the sequel to The Fugitive, and a bunch of movies kind of like that, done in that kind of vein, followed that same kind of structural pattern, if you will. They all had that same kind of feel to them. And I feel like Conspiracy Theory is a movie that has that kind of feel to it. So I'm glad to be able to get it for a pretty good price, $6.50. I had been waiting on this one for a long time, and it had gone down to some halfway decent prices in the past. But when I found out that it was going out of print, and I had wasted too much time waiting for it, I was just like, well, either I'm never going to get this, or I'm going to get lucky and find it on Mercari or something like that. And sure enough, there I found it on Mercari as part of this deal for $6.50. Pretty good deal, considering it's out of print. Next up, I got Of Mice and Men. This is the Olive Films release, and it's the version with John Malkovich and Gary Sinise. I can't remember correctly, but I believe this was a made-for-TV version of the film. Regardless, when I saw it for $6.50, I mean, whenever you can get an Olive Films release for $6.50, that's a damn steal that you need to take advantage of. So, very glad to have gotten this for that deal. I do recall liking it when I saw it way back in the day. I don't think it's necessarily like the best movie ever, but I think it's a pretty solid movie. And when it's one of those movies that's on a specialty label like this, and you know that they're going to charge between $10 and $15 even at the lowest price, yeah, you kind of have to go for it if you can get it for less than that. And that's exactly what I did here. This one has commentary in conversation with the director and screenwriter, making of, deleted scenes, makeup tests, screen tests, and the theatrical trailer. So there are actually quite a few special features here on this Blu-ray. So I can't complain. That's a pretty good deal right there. I'm very happy to have this one in my collection now. Next up I got The Couch Trip, which is a classic comedy starring Dan Aykroyd from back in the 80s. And it is a Kino Lorber release. I think this is actually a somewhat newer Kino Lorber release too. $6.50 for a Kino Lorber release? Yes, I will take that. Yes, I will. This is one of those movies that was on, I believe it was on the set that I got the Cadillac Man, a Couch Trip, and something else. It was a triple pack. I believe it was a triple pack DVD that had Cadillac Man, this, and something else. And I got it for $1 at Half Price Books during one of their sales at some point a couple of years ago. And I never got around to watching this one in particular, but, you know, when I saw it, I mean, it's a Dan Aykroyd comedy from the 80s that costs less than $10, and it's a Kino Lorber release. Like, that's a pretty good deal. I can't pass that up. The only thing that would have made this better was if it was Summer Rental, a John Candy movie, to be sure, not the same thing. But that's when I feel like has been sorely needing a Blu-ray release for a long freaking time, and they just have not released it. So I wish that would get a Kino Lorber release. That would be awesome if that got a Kino Lorber release. I would pre-order that. I would freaking pre-order that. Oh, hell yeah. Love that movie. One of my favorite 80s movies. But yes, The Couch Trip, I still need to check it out. But now I can check it out in high definition from Kino Lorber for only $6.50. Not bad. I mean, the thing about this is, even if I don't like it, I paid $6.50 for it, and it's a Kino Lorber title. I am guaranteed to make a profit if I decide to sell it. So yeah. Next up, last but not least, I picked up Needful Things. Been a long time since I saw this adaptation of Stephen King's work, and I, quite frankly, do not remember enough about it to know if I really loved it or hated it or anything like that. But again, it's a Kino Lorber release, so anytime you can get a Kino Lorber release for $6.50 for under $10, you kind of got to go for it. Because like I was just saying with the other one, even if you don't like it, you can sell it for more, you know? But I'm pretty sure I like this one enough that I want to have it in my collection. So that's one of the main reasons that I picked it up. I mean, this seller did actually have a lot more Kino Lorber stuff, but nothing that I really wanted. Nothing that I really cared about. So I was just like, I'm not even going to try and get those. I'm just going to ask for these, you know. The ones that I decided to get at least. So for $6.50, I decided to get Needful Things. Anytime you get a Stephen King adaptation like this from Kino Lorber for $6.50 for that low of a price is a pretty good deal, I think. And I'll probably wait until around Halloween time to watch this again. But hey, at least now I have it in my collection, right? But that is that. That is everything that I decided to pick up in this haul today. Total of $65 for everything you're seeing right there. Pretty good deal, all things told. I mean, this one goes for $15. This one goes for $15. That's $30 right there. This one goes for $15. That's $45 right there. This one, because it's out of print now, goes for at least $20. So that's $65 right there. Look at this. These 4 titles alone would have cost me $65, which is what I paid. I also got all of these. And then this one would have cost $15. That's $80 right there. This one I think I might have been able to find for between $15 and $20. Let's just say $20 because, well, it's either really hard to find or out of print. So yeah. Well, that's over $100. But this is like a $5. The rest of these are $5 titles at best. I mean, maybe a little bit more, but regardless, you're talking about maybe like $120, $125 worth of stuff here for $65. That's a pretty good deal. So yeah, very happy about that haul. That really made my day when I was able to snag those. So yeah. Anyways, that will do it for me today. Thanks for watching, you guys. Catch you later. Peace.